welcome to another episode of the All In podcast. You will notice we're in a very different location today. So I would love to just dive straight in and tell us all about yourself, your business, where we are, and let the girls know.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited. Actually, I'm having you because you're in my clinic
today.
You
are. You're having us.
So my name's Dr Beth. I'm an aesthetics doctor with a master's degree in dental surgery. So I always say that it's the number one way to make people go from being terrified of you in the room to wanting to be your best friend. You say you were a dentist and everyone runs a mile. And then you say, but I do Botox, and they all come running back. So I solely do medical aesthetics now. It's my calling in life. I'm so passionate about it. I absolutely love empowering my patients to just feel their very best, and we can come on to how that all evolved. We met actually at Pilates. I bumped onto a random extra class because I couldn't do my normal one, and we ended up chatting, and I think we were like the naughty kids at the back, weren't we? Because we had so much to say to each other.
It's not good when you're hanging upside down.
No. So we're like just balancing on these reformer machines, be like, hey, what do you think to this business idea? So it was so good. We said, you know what, we need to do a podcast together and share some of our experiences in life and business. So I opened Renovate Clinic about a year ago, nearly, just under maybe 9 months. I opened these premises. But I opened the same branding a few years ago elsewhere. The name is a whole thing in itself. I invented the word because I thought it sounded like a mixture of renovate, refresh, rejuvenate. Sounded a bit fat, but no one can say it. No one knows what it means. We are where we are.
We're here.
And I do a whole different range now of treatments ranging from skin optimization, not the same as a dermatologist. So not treating disease, more optimizing I call them the 3 musketeers. So your elastin, collagen, and hyaluronic acid to give you nice, supple, healthy, bouncy skin, and try and maintain what you've got for as long as possible. I do lots of regenerative treatments as well. So things that stimulate your body to regenerate itself, because as we get older, it doesn't function quite as well. So trying to replenish that. And lots of different treatments as well for the structure of the face and basically giving people confidence.
I love that.
Which I love. Yeah.
I love that. And I feel like that's why we align so much. It's very different. Don't get me wrong, I wouldn't trust me with a needle.
Which is music to my ears, because these days anybody is picking up a needle.
I've seen horror stories. So I'd love to kind of dive a little bit into, obviously, you were a dentist before. Is that right?
Yeah.
You were a dentist?
Yes.
Yeah. So how do you find your personalities? We talk a little bit about it kind of in the short time we've known each other, which feels like a long time, that you've kind of worn this hat and that now you're wearing another hat.
Yeah.
How do you think that's changed, and has it affected you running this business now?
Yeah, so I think from being around 12 years old, I wanted to be a dentist.
It's a strange thing for a 12-year-old to want to be.
So my dad was a dentist.
Okay.
And then I actually had braces, and I had to go and see an orthodontist quite young because I'd got a lot of issues with the development of my teeth, which were picked up really early. Okay. So I went to see this orthodontist, Fiona, and we'll often joke because I was like, I just want to be like Fiona. I want to do what Fiona does. And my dad's like, yes, this is what I do. So no credit for my dad at all. Fiona. So I was sure I wanted to be a dentist, and I breathed. Everything was dentistry. I spent all my school holidays volunteering in dental practices, doing admin, bagging up these sterile instruments, setting up, cleaning, anything they would let me do. I was there.
Oh my goodness.
From being about 14. So I think before you're even allowed to have a job, I was there. Being like, please just let me get work experience. So I was completely obsessed. Did my GCSE graphics project about dental anxiety and made like a welcome pack for children. So it really was everything. And then went to dental school and thought, I don't actually like doing the dentistry. I love helping people. I love making people feel good. I really liked that feeling. And, you know, when someone goes, oh, you've really helped me, or they come back and say, since you did that denture, I've been dating again. And that thought of, actually, I've helped them make a change in their life that makes them feel good. And then I went into maxillofacial surgery shortly after qualifying as a dentist. And that was just the dream in terms of the job. It was quite traumatic, don't get me wrong. It was difficult.
I was going to say, it sounds tough.
Crazy hours. It made me quite anxious as well. I'd always had a bit of a difficulty throughout university with analysing, you know, very type A, perfectionist, everything has to be just right, bit of a control freak. And then when I came out of university and went to the hospital, I found it very difficult because you couldn't control some of the outcomes and couldn't always be perfect. And you did see some quite shocking things. And it did do quite a bit of damage to my mental health at the time because I became scared of just freak things happening, because you would see, it was in Leeds General Infirmary, so local hospitals would send patients across to us. So you really would see everything.
Yeah.
And you just think, oh, I didn't realise it was dangerous to make a cup of tea and then fall over the dog and smash your face. And, all of a sudden you became like, oh my gosh, everything is dangerous.
Everything is going to hurt.
Yeah, so I became a bit, I don't like saying anxious, I think it's a bit of a buzzword, anxiety, anxious, but I really was struggling with anxiety, which I had done throughout uni, and that just exacerbated it. My husband's 8 years older than me, which, sorry for saying it live on air, Ollie, but he's 8 years older, and was we were thinking about when we would want to have a family and whether we would want to maybe consider that before building my career more, or build my career then have children. We decided to do children first.
Yes.
And working in the hospital just wasn't going to fit with the life we wanted. I know people do it, hats off to them, but it is a lifestyle.
Yeah.
We decided that it wasn't the right choice. So I went into general practice, and again, I just had that feeling of, well, just don't love this. And felt like something was unaligned. So when we had our first little boy, I started doing some aesthetics on the side, almost to say, well, let's just top up the bank account. Obviously, any business owner knows you invest so much more than you earn in that time.
Yeah.
So it definitely didn't top up the bank. It drained the bank. We invested our honeymoon got cancelled because of COVID. So we invested our honeymoon money on me doing some training, and it just spiraled.
I mean, what a great honeymoon.
Anyone who's looking for a honeymoon destination. Exactly. So it ended up being much bigger than I had imagined it was going to be at the time, and it's just continued to grow from there.
But I think that's the thing, when you find something that just absolutely is your calling, I think often you do fall into that.
Yes.
And that's so much more valuable. Like you say, I always thought I was going to be a writer. That was always my thing.
Okay.
I grew up wanting to be a writer. I went to uni, I studied content writing and journalism and everything to do with the English language, which as a dyslexic was always...
That's quite impressive.
Thank you. And I accidentally fell into this, and now I get the best of both worlds.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm so much more passionate about it.
Yeah.
So I think one of the biggest challenges, and it'd be interesting to hear your side, and I guess going from dentistry, I would guess, is a very male-dominated field, aesthetics.
So in the hospital, I felt people would click their fingers at me and say, "Nurse, come here." And I'm not saying being called a nurse is any like a derogatory thing. Obviously, I've got so many amazing colleagues in the industry who are nurses. However, there was an assumption that was my role. It was just assumed you're a nurse.
You must be a nurse.
Yeah. I was thinking, well, actually, I literally just did your operation. It was me who sewed your head back together in that. And there was this assumption that I was kind of put in a box, and I was bright blonde, 23 years old. So I started feeling like, to be taken seriously, I need to change how I sort of behave. And I worked hard. I worked really hard.
I can't even imagine.
And all throughout school, because I knew I wanted to be a dentist. I knew I had to get straight A's, and it was a non-negotiable. You had to have those 3 A's.
Yeah.
So I would get in from school, and I would work from being 14. I would get in from school and work till bedtime. On a Saturday and a Sunday, I would do 8 hours work. I worked and worked. I literally never stopped, which is, I'm not saying it's a good thing, and I definitely think I'm not glorifying like the burnout or the overworking, but I worked so hard, and I felt as though no matter how hard I work, I'm not being respected or treated as I deserve to be, effectively. So I kind of started masking my personality a bit and being much more almost, I don't know if have you heard of Elizabeth Holmes? No. Okay, so she had a business called Theranos, and it was a massive scam. There's an amazing book called Bad Blood, which everybody should read, about how she scammed investors and massive businesses into millions and millions of pounds. Wow. I think it was actually maybe $1 billion in the end. Jeez. And it was this detected, a blood test that detected diseases, but it didn't work. And she kept passing it off as prototypes and other stuff. I'll say allegedly, because apparently you're not allowed to say stuff in case she gets sued. So allegedly
she did this.
Yeah. There's an amazing book by an investigative journalist called Bad Blood. And she put on a voice where she would speak really low and like masculine.
Was this made into a documentary?
Yes.
I have seen
Yes, and she put on this really low voice to come across as man, like more masculine, to be taken seriously.
Yes.
And I totally relate to that. When I was just a couple of years at university, I got asked to edit the Oxford Handbook of Clinical Dentistry, which is the best-selling book in dentistry, to my knowledge. And like, every dental student has it. It's in every dental practice. It's like the dentistry dictionary. And it was a whole series of events that led to me doing that. But there were questions like, well, why she got it? How come, that like blonde child, she got the opportunity almost. I was being trolled on social media. And this was when I was maybe had like 600 followers. I was still being trolled.
Yeah.
And it was really difficult because I was thinking, right, I need to even double down on this. I am worthy, I am academic, and people need to take me seriously. And I'm only now just starting to feel like I can wear the hat of being myself and actually live as my authentic self and come across as that person as well, which is really tricky because you're also in a whole new industry.
Yes.
Even though I feel being a dentist makes me what I am in this industry, it's different. Whole new industry, whole new people, whole new patient base and audience. Different kind of, I'm much more public facing than industry facing now. So I'm more speaking to patients and speaking to colleagues in terms of what I put out into the world. And also learning how to run a business. So I feel as though it's been a massive change and shift, and trying to figure out where I fit in all of that's been really difficult.
I think there's so much there. The biggest thing, like you say, when you do become a business owner, even if you haven't had the confliction of who I am and who I think I should be, who I want to be, you've then thrown in, now I'm a business owner on top.
Yeah.
I am 100% a different person today than I was when I started with businesses. I think that whole is a full development journey.
Yeah.
There's so much that kind of I wish I'd known. And I guess, so much, still learning. I got scammed by my accountant, and that's like my go-to story. She said, don't pay tax in your first year, so I didn't. I got hit with a massive fine.
You don't pay tax in your first year? How does that work?
I'm not sure. I didn't. She just told me that. And it's kind of the white coat theory, isn't it? Someone in a white coat tells you you're ill, you just go, okay.
Yeah, absolutely. This is something which I've always found confusing about why if you pay a professional accountant and then they make an error, you're responsible for checking and knowing. And it's like,
but aren't I paying for your years?
But surely that's why they literally have that training and that job. I find that really confusing.
Bizarre. Yeah, and they should have to have anyway. Anyway, we're good on. Yes.
Anyway.
Anywho,
that's a podcast for another day.
Can I say that? Allegedly?
She allegedly doesn't like accountants.
So, take me back to kind of almost day one, week one, month one. What was it like going from, you've made this decision, obviously you kind of said that it was going to be a top up. Do you think that eased you into it? Or do you still feel like there was a day one that you went, oh my gosh, I now have so much that I have to know like now? So
I put all my eggs in one basket, true to Beth style, and invested in a 2-year course, like a 2-year mastery program in aesthetics. So it wasn't just kind of a Saturday Botox course. It was a very intensive, comprehensive training program, including lots of theory, hands-on, mentorship, one-to-one coaching. I decided, so I never questioned the clinical side of things. I was like, yeah, this is so aligned. I know my anatomy, I know my pharmacology, I know my injecting, I know my drug mechanisms. So the theory I learned quickly and I picked that up fine. But then when it came to actually thinking, right, I need premises. Oh, I've run out of that product. I need to order some stock. Wait, what's VAT? Oh, okay. So there's VAT. So do I pay that or do they pay that?
I still don't know the answer to that.
We'll chat after. How do I, oh, okay, I need to take notes. And the thing that scared me the most was the unknown unknowns. So it terrified me that there were things I wouldn't know about and then I'd just get fine. Things like ICO registration, because I keep notes for my patients. I have to have ICO registration. So you have to pay every year for like a license to keep patient data or people's data and anybody's information. And I didn't know this. And then I got a thing saying, you haven't paid your, and I was like, oh my gosh, right, so I'll do that. And then the next minute it's like, oh no, but you need an insurance for this as well as that, like public liability insurance. So there were so many things that I was really worried that I was going to just go to jail over something I didn't know. So I invested in a business coach, which again, it felt like, oh my God, more money, which was a really great decision for me because it just helped me become more of a businesswoman, because I never called myself a businesswoman. It was very much, I'm a clinician who has business. Whereas now I feel I'm a businesswoman and a clinician. And so much of that has just been like learning lessons. I've wasted so much money. I've been ripped off. I've had like paying for companies to do design and branding and then finding it's a complete copy of someone else's and like things like that where you just think, oh, it's just really annoying and I didn't do my due diligence. But I spent £900 something on a website name and then didn't know you had to keep renewing it. So then I just like lost it. It was just gone. Just things like that, which you just live and learn. And I do think people are so hard on themselves because you look at social media and think somebody's just set up a business and then they've employed all the staff. Yeah, and there's all the staff and off they go. And actually, it's really difficult. And any business owner questions themselves. Everybody makes mistakes.
Yes.
And I think when you look at someone who seems like an overnight success, there's usually 10 years behind that overnight success.
I couldn't agree more.
And actually, I think sometimes that rapid success is more scary, maybe less desirable, because you've not got that time to develop and to learn. And when it suddenly grows, you might not have got the infrastructure there. And your mistakes are potentially going to be a lot more scary and a lot more risky.
If you're making a mistake with a £100,000 business, it's very different to a £100 million business.
Exactly. And I think that gradual growth, like you said, about being a different person, I'm a different person now, and the brand has evolved. And honestly, when I look back at my logo in the past, like I've had so many different versions, and the messaging was all over. I didn't know who I was, what the brand was. So, because I remember being really frustrated once at somebody else, like an opportunity I wanted, I didn't get. Looking back now, I'm like, I wouldn't have given me that opportunity. You know, like the day you qualify and I'm there with my needles, like, why isn't everybody booking in for their Botox?
I understand, I'm the best.
Yeah, it's like, well, no, I wasn't experienced. I didn't know enough to be doing what I wanted to do, and because I'm so ambitious and I've got all these ideas, and I'm sure you're the same.
Yeah.
Why am I not on that stage? But 5 years ago, you probably weren't ready to be on that 100%. Stage. So actually, sometimes trying to enjoy the journey and trust the journey and the growth, I think is really important.
Yes.
And you can look at someone who seems like they're already there, but most people have put in the groundwork to get there.
I think one of the biggest lessons with this whole overnight success is actually Sabrina Carpenter. So many people now go, oh, she's an overnight success, an overnight sensation. It's sort of 2 decades in the making.
Yeah, she's done 11 albums or something.
It's something crazy like that. She's been on Disney Channel and movies and TV shows and everything to become this overnight success. You know, things like Odd Muse. You look back, sort of 2018, 2019 was when Amy Smale started. Yeah. That wasn't overnight, don't get me wrong. She's scaled rapidly, phenomenal woman. But it isn't one day you're amazing. Alloon's only really been running as a proper paid membership for 3 weeks. And my co-founder, Izzy, actually this morning mentioned that to me. So I was like, no, we've been running for years. 3 weeks. I'm like, oh, God.
Yeah, exactly.
And it is terrifying. But I think most entrepreneurs have that. I'm ready, so everyone else should be.
Yes, yeah, definitely.
It just doesn't.
And you know your potential as well. Yes. And I think there's so many times where my family have said, you're doing amazing. I mean, I grew this to a 6-figure business in 18 months.
Which is amazing.
But that doesn't mean that's what you take home, which is another shock to the system. Because you're like, okay, 20% goes on your VAT, 50% on stock costs and material costs. Then you've got your corporation tax, then you're running fixed costs, and like, oh, and there's 9p left for me.
Here's enough for a Kit Kat.
Literally. And it's all stuff which you just don't know until you do it.
No.
And then you'll get, there was a tax I didn't even know existed. So if the director is the only employee of the business, so you can have other kind of freelance members of staff and stuff. If you're the only employee, you have to pay 2 national insurances. So you pay your employer's national insurance and employee's national insurance. So again, suddenly get this like second national insurance bill from the accountant. I'm like, what? Like, I didn't know that was a thing. Yeah, so it's really, there's so much that you learn, and that's when a good accountant comes in, because you need to figure out the best structure financially for the business. And that's not about not paying tax, but it's about working out, okay, how should this business run most effectively so that you're actually doing things properly and by the book, but in a way that's going to be in the best interest of the business. Because there's no point, for example, money being sat in the account and paying a load of corporation tax if you could maybe be taking dividends. So there's just certain ways of figuring out. Yeah, exactly. So I have invested really, really heavily back into the business, but that's with a view to growing. But I think I get messages all the time on like social media, people saying, okay, I want to leave dentistry. What's your advice? And I just think or should I take on premises? Should I buy? Should I do X, Y, Z? And it's so personal because, you know, you could be married to a billionaire and it's just your little hobby.
And it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. You might be the sole breadwinner as a single mum of 5 kids working 4 jobs. You probably can't just quit your jobs and sit.
It matters.
Yeah. And I know that it would grow a lot quicker if I sat behind that desk 5 days a week. But I also want to be there for my kids growing up. Yeah. So my little boys are only 2 and 4 still. I want to be there for them. So I do think it's very, very personal, and we can take things from other people and we can learn from their journeys, and we can learn from their experiences. But I also think it's important not to put too much weight on trying to mimic somebody else's journey or story, because there's so much more to it.
It's like taking inspiration rather than copying.
Yeah, definitely.
There's community is massive at the minute, and I think there's a lot of brands starting to do what I do, and I don't view it as competition, because we're all different, but also just like I said, we're all different. We all have different goals and aims for the business, and that I think is one of the biggest things. I would look at other email marketers and I'd see their adverts, and I'm like, well, how are you getting all this traction? How are you doing this? Why am I not getting these clients? But when I speak to people, I get messages on LinkedIn. Similarly, I've been made redundant, have I started a business? I also think there's an element of transparency that's missing. I was very lucky that a friend knew a friend who had an agency, who had someone who needed an email marketer on the same day I was redundant. It happened to me because I happened to ring that friend crying, saying, and this isn't a friend that I speak to regularly. We actually haven't spoken for months, and I just rang, went up and made redundant. What do I do? Yeah. And he went, he rang his friend, who rang his friend. Yeah, literally. And then he rang, and it's this transparency of me saying that was luck. It really was. I didn't earn that. The years of my study and experience, yes, carried me through it. But I didn't earn that meeting. It was handed to me.
Kind of. But I would argue that the person you are.
Yes.
And so, because I've got a colleague who's had a really great opportunity, and she sometimes says, oh, it was just luck, I was in the right place at the right time. But you had to be in that place for a reason. 100%. You've earned the place you're in. He had to believe that you were skilled enough to recommend you to somebody. Yes. And then they had to also think you were the right kind of person to fit the job. So I do think it's easy for us to say,
we're hard on ourselves.
Yeah, definitely. When actually 100%. It's all marketing. You just don't know which bit of it's actually going to lead to something.
100%. Yeah. It's your personal brand. And
absolutely.
Anyone who has followed me for more than probably 2 days will know I'm obsessed with Amelia Sordell.
Who's that?
Oh, she's like the queen of personal branding. She's got a book called Personal Branding Playbook. And she essentially, a very long kind of story short, but she worked for a business in their marketing department, grew it massively, scaled up really quickly, built up her own personal brand. So then left that business and now runs cloud. Very, very good. She just makes sense. Everything's broken down. And when, people say, what's your why? I find, why? Well, because I need to pay my bills. I'm the breadwinner. I need to pay my bills. This is a skill I have, and it's a skill that people need. There's my why. But actually, it's not that. And it's breaking it down. And she goes through how to do that.
Yeah.
I would definitely recommend to anybody.
Oh, cool. I feel like I've not come across it. I feel like, what do you mean I've not come across someone to do with personal development and branding?
Honestly, I'll grab the book. You'll love it. It's amazing. I did do a series on TikTok where I read out highlights to people so they could kind of pick and choose buy the book.
Like our very own Blinkist. Have you heard of Blinkist? Yeah. It's so good, isn't it? Yeah, I've got an Audible credit, so I feel like that might have to go there if it's on Audible thing.
I'm a highlighter girl. A book and I scribble all over it.
I just don't have the time for that right now with the kids. Like the minute they're in bed, I'm on my laptop, so I'm like, Audible while I'm driving is the only way I can get it in. Habit stacking. I have to get to work, gonna learn something on the way. Absolutely. And I do think as well with business, like you said about transparency, because I'll find that a challenge, because I'm patient facing. So anything I put out there, I know patients can see and hear. So when you first start in a business, you don't want to be like, guys, I'm really struggling and no one's booking in, because then patients will think she can't be very good.
Yeah.
So it is always that battle between, you want to be transparent and authentic, but you also, with any business, you want to position yourself as an expert.
Yes.
So how do you bridge that gap, And I think that's where these networking groups, like what you're doing, works so well, because it's almost behind the scenes. So those business owners can be transparent, they can speak to each other, they can say, because that's how we immediately connected, saying, oh, isn't this hard? Or that's a challenge. We even said how difficult it is to meet other female founders
really
on the same kind of parts of their journey. And it just looks like on social media, everybody's already winning and they're already there. Which is fair enough, because you do have to present that to an extent. But I just think that's why it's so valuable. And I remember in the early days, I'd open a 2-hour clinic and be like, I'm fully booked, or only 1 hour remaining. And it's like, because you only opened 2 hours. And my appointments would be really, really long. So it would only take 3 consultations and I'd be fully booked. But that's obviously, you want to give that there's that sense of urgency, and it was never dishonest. But when I very first started, you can't be like, oh guys, I'm sat twiddling my thumbs, does anyone want to book?
Could somebody please book?
Yeah. So then people would see that. If I was new to the industry, I would see that and go, oh my gosh, she's only been doing it a week and she's fully booked. I must be doing something wrong. So it's so difficult. And I do think that you kind of have to take social media with a pinch of salt.
Agreed.
When you start business. Nobody is as successful as they look. No one's doing as well as you think. And well, some people maybe, but
the majority aren't.
Most people are going to over-exaggerate and show the good, because you have to think, what message are they putting out there?
Yes.
As a business owner, they're not going to go, nobody wants to buy the handbags I've made. It'll be last handbag in stock.
Yeah, because this is the last one of its kind.
Yeah, and then that sense of urgency makes people buy, and eventually it does then become something.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's why in-person things with people who are going to be transparent, honest, share their experiences are just so valuable.
Yeah. I completely agree. And there's even, obviously there's all these content studios, we're also a content studio in April, and there's a big group that's going, but there's content studios now that are private jets, that are 5-star restaurants.
Yeah.
So you can go and they have mock-up designer bags. So you can sit on your private jet with your designer bag, take pictures and post it. How is that the world that we live in? I genuinely think there's the difference between exaggerating, they say 1 hour left of a 2-hour slot, but it's still 1 hour, and outright lying.
Definitely.
And I do think there should be some kind of law. There should be
it should be against the law. But do you know how many people have Hermes bags? Is
scary.
What? And you see more and more people getting them, and you're thinking, how do all these people have £20,000+ just spare?
Just
like that is,
I don't have that as a business owner.
Crazy money. As a proportion of your money that's left over, you think either are people spending 100% of their passive income on that item, or it is really crazy. And I was watching, is it Dubai Bling, like years ago. It's awful.
It's like good awful.
And they were all criticizing one of the cast members. The other cast members were like, oh my God, she's keeping the bag in a dust bag. She's rented it. And they were all saying that this woman had rented the handbag just so on the show she looked like she had it. And then one of the guys turned up in a car and he didn't know how to use the boot. And they were like, he's rented that. I think it was like a Lamborghini, and he didn't know how to close the boot. And they were like, that can't be his car. And I thought, oh my gosh, there's pressure on people. And you're hearing now, Made in Chelsea, Mimi Bouchard, she's got a podcast. So she does the Activation Superhuman app.
Okay.
I'll tell you about it later if you don't. This is amazing. But she's got the app, and she'll often say how she was completely broke. She was on Made in Chelsea and working in cafes so she could get free food. But on Made in Chelsea, and we're all sat at home thinking, wow, how the rich kids live. And I was listening to Bethany Frankel on her podcast this week, talking about business and branding and how she's grown her business.
Yeah.
And she was even saying that on Real Housewives, that they all kind of had nothing, and it was all this for show. And it's just crazy, because you just sit and watch TV and think, oh, they've made it. Yeah, and you just believe it all.
There's a girl on TikTok who drives a Fit 500 but has a Birkin.
Love that.
Yeah, and she's like, but my car depreciates, my Birkin doesn't. And do you know what? There's a little bit of it which goes,
fair enough.
Yeah, fair. She was like, I'm single, I saved up my entire life. So when I was a kid, I wanted a Mustang.
Did you? My dad had a Mustang.
I bought it. It was
did
the best
you,
thing
did you get it?
Yeah, I got it.
It was like driving around in a goldfish bowl. He had a really old one that was like, people would be looking like, what?
Is it going to blow up?
Yeah.
No, I was 12. So cool. And I remember being at the wedding of some family friends, and one went by, and I just saw everyone look at it, and I was staring. I couldn't stop staring. And I used to hide away from it. I love being the centre of attention. I'm not sorry. That's who I am as a person. This is me. That's just who I am as a person. And I was like, I want that car. And that was it. At 22, 10 years later, I bought one. But then obviously lockdown happened 2 weeks after.
You're allowed out in your car, I guess.
I drove to the beach every day.
Nice.
But it was like everyone would sit in traffic and people would look in and be like,
and you don't match. Yeah, you stereotype for a Mustang, isn't you?
It's not me. It shouldn't be me. But you know what? It was so me. And I don't even know what the point of the story was now. Maybe I just wanted to get in there that I had a Mustang. There was definitely a point.
There was no point. Guys, she had a Mustang.
I had a Mustang. I'll put it in the pictures.
What colour was it?
Red.
Was it like a new, one of the modern ones, or an old one?
So it was 2018. It was the last of the model before the facelift.
Wow, that's so exciting. Was it noisy?
Yeah.
They're rowdy, aren't they?
Yeah. You turn it on.
Yes. That's so fun.
I put a traffic light on my like a Corsa sat next to me, revving it, and I'm like, oh, honey.
Please. How long did you have it?
About 2.5 years.
Why did you sell it?
They were fortune. Don't know if you know this.
Yeah, and maintenance and costs,
they were just really expensive, and I got it on finance, so I put £10,000 down. It was to do with the money.
Oh, okay.
She had 10,000. She bought Birkin, and I bought a standard decision.
I guess, and she's resold it and made a profit.
Yeah, pretty much.
They are making people money, aren't they?
They are.
But yeah, I do think we have to take with a pinch of salt all this stuff.
I agree. So apologies. But I would love to know if someone came to you, there's lots of kind of mentorship. Say, for example, I said to you, I've got this girl, she, not exactly what you do, but she wants to go into beauty. She's not really sure where to start. She's got all this qualification. I need 5 things that she absolutely needs to know that you kind of wish you knew. Where would you start?
Okay. So you're wanting to go into beauty or aesthetics, this kind of world. So I would say your patients are your biggest marketing asset.
Okay.
So the experience you give them, everything has to revolve around them, from your patient journey. So thinking about, okay, you want to reduce resistance. So when they go to book, I do have deposits on now to avoid anyone not showing up and wasting time. But thinking, okay, is my booking system easy? Is it clear to people? Is it obvious how they can book?
I hate a messy booking system.
Exactly. So an easy booking system. Mine shows on the calendar like little blobs where there's availability. So it's not just lists of dates. They can click and it's like a calendar view. So easy booking when they arrive, streamlined experience, being on time. If you struggle with time, keeping longer appointments initially, because people hate turning up, you're late, you're rushing around, they don't feel special. And then following up as well, making sure that you genuinely are caring. So if somebody's not quite happy about something, getting them back in, talking to them about it. So patient experience and journey is really important. I would also say don't over discount, get some models in, friends, family, before and after photos so people can see what kind of work you're going to do. But don't be constantly running offers, because it's just a race to the bottom. If you're competing on price, and you're only going to attract the people who are looking for price and looking for offers, for loads, shopping based on price. So whenever I've run offers in the early days, people would come in, they'd be like, oh yeah, I've been to here, I've been to there, I've been there. They're not coming to me because it's me. I want people to find me who are looking for the best standard of care, excellent outcomes, exceptional clinical outcomes, and a really good patient experience. I don't want people to find me who are looking for the best deal, because they'll come in, have the deal, and then they're not going to come back next time. Because they've not come to me for me. They've come to me for price, and it's not sustainable as a business model. So I would say patient experience, not racing to the bottom with loads of discounts and offers. So what are you? Are you I do natural looking subtle results, or are you I do big Russian lashes, and think about where those people are going to be and what they like, and try and align yourself with those things. So if you're really keen on, wedding makeup, that's your thing, then going to bridal events, collaborating with dress shops, collaborating with hairstylists, and making friends with people in that industry as well. Go to events, go to bridal shows, talk to people, talk to brides, ask questions, learn what they want, what made you book, what made you choose her, what's important to you. So I definitely think being clear on what you want to do, aligning yourself with that. I would say invest slowly, because I had shiny object syndrome, and I'll be like, oh my God, I need that for the clinic. And actually sometimes there's things that just aren't important. And actually figuring out, will this make my boat go faster? Do I need to spend money on that? I prioritize products. So I invest in really good products for my patients, because I will not compromise on what's going in your face and what I'm using to put it in your face. But you can compromise elsewhere, like shop around for your paper towels, shop around for your apron. You don't need to have the best of everything. And then I would also just say, trying to build your brand on your person, build your brand being your authentic self, because we spoke about this. We re-recorded the introduction to this podcast several times, because I always default back into my professional mode.
It's like your doctor self.
And it just doesn't feel authentic, and it's so hard to just be me. After so many years of trying to deliberately not be me, and saying the word too much, or being too handsy, I'm sitting, and it's so hard. And I'd say if you can start, because there's also that fear of, maybe people chose me because of that persona, and then they won't like this persona. Whereas if you've just been your authentic self from the start, it's going to be so much easier, because you're not questioning that. You're knowing if people have chosen you, they've chosen you for you. And I feel like over the last year, I've sort of transitioned into just being full authentic self. So now there's almost less imposter syndrome, not just because I am genuinely feeling like less of an imposter in the industry, but also because if I get an opportunity, I think that opportunity has come to me being my authentic self. Whereas if you're kind of not being your true self, you're not really knowing, are they choosing me for that version of me or this version of me?
So they turn up.
Who are you going to be? Exactly. And I think that if you match online, on your website, on social media, in person, at networking events, as a friend, obviously there's levels, like who you are on a night out might be different to who you are on a ward round. But that core message from you as a person, I think the more consistent you can be and authentic, the better.
Yeah. I love that.
So my 5 tips.
Yeah, I feel like there was like loads in there, but I love that.
You can have that one for free.
Thanks. And what about things? So I actually got a podcast week this week, and I had someone on who was talking about kind of brand strategy and this kind of thing. And I'd love to know from your side, if someone's come in and they've, let's say they're ready, they've got everything in place, where you've said your clients your marketing budget, where would you say if they have £1,000, where would you put that?
Oh, wow, £1,000. Okay.
£1,000 feels like a lot of money when you're a new business owner. When I first set up and someone went, here's 1,000, I would have been like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Whereas now I'm like,
no.
What do we want to do? They're like, it's like, right?
It's difficult.
Is that going into accounting? Into marketing? Where is it that you think you would put that?
So if I was really, really new and I was wanting to get things going, right, so you don't need an accountant for the first year, just until your accounts are due. Just track everything comes in and goes out. And it depends as well if you're a limited company or if you're a sole trader. Because if you're a limited company, you need to be doing confirmation statement. You need to be potentially paying a wage to yourself if you're employed by yourself. You need to think about corporation tax. It is different. So I would get accounting advice. Try and find a friend who's an accountant just for that initial bit of advice. Everyone's got some sort of connection to an accountant. Just for that little bit of advice. So I'd say you don't want to fall down at that hurdle. So get some advice. But for me, it depends as well on your business, because the stock I use is extremely expensive, the products. So doing free or discounted treatments to get it started is really tricky because the products cost so much. However, if you're in beauty and you think, okay, £1,000, how many sets of lashes can you do for that? Or how many people want to see before and afters? So I would be using that money to get a little clicky, my light's not there. Okay, guys, I can't show you my light on screen, but it was like $15.99, something from Amazon. A little light that clips onto your phone. So you can start recording some content. And I would get your Instagram verified, which is $9.99 a month, because I think it makes you look so much more authoritative as a person. So I would have, say, Beth's lashes, and I would want to be verified. So there's £100 gone on that. No, 120. I'm being verified. 120. You're like, 100. 12 times 10. It's okay. We don't really need maths in our industry. So 120 on that. And you're $15.99 or whatever on your light. And I would start making content like, okay, so how do I prepare for lashes? What can't I do after I've had my lashes done? How long will my lashes last? How often can I have my lashes? What are the different types of lashes? Watch me do some and film me doing some. What happens when I come for a consultation? How do I decide what kind of lashes to use? What happens if you have caffeine before? Have you seen those videos and people's lashes are
that's me.
That's me. I'm like, no, I've not had coffee.
I don't think. What do you mean?
So I feel we need to slow-mo that clip of So doing something really strange. So getting that content out there and then using your time for free and investing some of that money into materials to be doing free treatments for friends and family to get loads of before and afters. Advertise, okay, I'm doing some free lashes to build my portfolio in exchange for a Google review. So you're going to build your Google reviews, you're going to be building, word of mouth. Every patient I see, I'll then be giving them a card which has like a refer a friend benefit on it. Anyone who comes in, you say, right, thank you very much. If you leave me a Google review, if you're happy, give this to your friend. So when I said about not discounting, for your current, I do believe in rewarding loyalty. So I think it's different to attracting people because of discounts. It is recommending their friends. I like to reward them either with a little gift, like a skincare product or a discount. And I'll run offers in that sense to reward existing patients. So encourage them to recommend a friend. So it's super low budget. You've paid for some lashes, you've got a Google review, and you've got a recommendation potentially. And always rebook. So when that person is in the chair, rebook them for the next appointment. So you say, right, I can do them again in 8 weeks' time. Let's get our diaries. So they're booked in. So you're already populating your diary in advance.
Yeah.
And then I would do a DI website on either Wix or like Squarespace, that kind of thing. Build a really simple website and start putting your before and afters on. So you're only paying for your Wix, a bit of material costs. Make yourself a Google business, again, free. Put your before and afters on. So you're getting anywhere patients look, your clients look, before and afters on your website. And I'd use a booking system as well. So that would be my £1,000, would be my booking for a year.
Yeah.
Booking system. What was it? Booking system. Verified on Instagram, because I think it gives that authority, or a sense of authority when people come across your page, and a light.
I like that. I feel like that's probably the most comprehensive answer, which is actually really helpful. A lot of time people will just be like, oh yeah, marketing. And I'm like, yeah, but where?
Yeah, I think, and then your patients are your advert. If I saw an ad, paid for ad, because like social media, like Meta swallows up ad money. You can spend £100 in like a couple of days. It just gobbles it up. And then you go on the page and be like, oh, there's nothing there. Whereas if you can record maybe one video, if you're posting every day, a little bit behind the scenes, how to care for your lashes, you're positioning yourself as an expert. Read Daniel Priestley's Key Person of Influence. Great book. But it's all about positioning yourself as an expert. Offer to write for free for like little local magazines and blogs and stuff. All this is free stuff, getting yourself out there. So then when people go on your Instagram, it's, oh, she wrote for that blog, makes you look like an expert. Oh, here's some expert advice on this reel. Next video, oh, that's her doing someone's lashes. Next one, a before and after, so people can see your work. And you're verified, so it builds this authority. People get to know you, they trust you because you're being yourself. So that's how I would start, and that's how I did start, by doing like facials and saying, can I get a Google review if you enjoyed it?
Yeah.
I would never say they had to do one in exchange for it. I think a bit different with medical-y stuff. But I do them like a free chemical peel, because that was a lower cost treatment. Fillers so expensive. I'd have been able to do like one patient for £1,000 in filler, like one big change. But you can say, do some chemical peels, get a review, get some before and afters, and then people go on your page and they're like, oh, real people trust her to do treatment, not there's loads of videos of her, but there's no real patient.
Of like anybody else.
Yeah.
And I think that's really difficult to get that. And you've touched on quite nicely, actually, moving on, getting out there. PR, I think, is something that we don't talk about, and it's extortionate.
Yeah.
Obviously, I've walked in and seen your massive row of awards, and obviously I've seen and followed you for like a couple of weeks now, and even that has shown that you're on panels and you clearly are the expert in the industry. How would somebody...
Can we nodding away? The thing is, I actually think now I actually am.
Which I love that.
But a few years ago, I'd have been like, yes, very much, yes. Whereas now I'm like, okay, to be fair, I am really good. But it just takes time.
And it's so, like, it's the dream, isn't it? I would love for people to be in that position for me, where they're like, oh, we need someone to talk about this. Harriet, she's the expert on this.
Yeah.
Where would you start? So, for example, I reached out to the Workshop Guardian, and I was like, here's my story, local entrepreneur, blah, blah, blah. And they ran it in their online bit, which then got picked up by their print bit. So that got picked up. And I was like, yay. Where'd you go from there?
So I think that I think everything is like a snowball effect.
Yes.
So I think we spoke about this. So there's a story about someone who like got sold a paperclip to get a house or something. Yeah. So you have your paperclip. Can I sell this for a pen? Like, would you swap my paperclip for your pen or a pencil? And then keep trading your way up. Now, you might get stuck at certain points. So I started by being like, Sheffield Telegraph, can I write for you about bad breath? Can I write for you about braces? And just things people could like skim read on the commute, on the bus, whatever. And I started doing that, and then writing for some free blogs. And then I would sort of pitch to something a bit higher up and like not get a reply. Yeah. I think I emailed something like 75 newspapers and magazines. Wow. Like, can I write an article for you? And they all just ignored me. But then Sheffield Telegraph's like, excuse me. So just gradually like working your way up. And if you get stuck, just keep doing stuff at that level that you're at, and then you'll get more and more and more. Okay. And then re-pitch and be like, because then you can say, oh, I've written for 25 different newspapers. Keep building that authority. Don't give up. You just have to keep going and going, and, you know, start with smaller awards. Don't necessarily go for like marketing champion of the world. Do. But if you've got a blank application form, it's not going to work. Whereas if you go for, you know, Retford, and then you go for Bassetlaw, then you go for Nottinghamshire, and then and gradually then England, then UK.
Yeah.
And it's like what we said at the start about the overnight success. Looks like it's overnight, but it's really not. And gradually building on that. And it's that constant juggle between what's going to make your boat go faster. What do you want? Do you want to be fully booked with your lash or nail clients, or do you want to be doing more public speaking? Because not a single person who's asked me to talk has asked to look at my clinic diary to see how busy I am, other than Get Harley, because they see my clinic diary because they work with my patient list. Like they do the logistics of my skincare sales, so they can physically see how many patients I've got. But no other company has ever said, prove how many treatments you've done. How many treatments have you done, Beth? No one's ever asked. It's just come on our panel. So it's what do you actually want? Because you can build your profile as a speaker, as a mentor, based on personal brand and BS.
You can fake it till you make it.
But that's not going to necessarily bring you in the money in your clinic or your salon. Or your office, or like whatever industry. So I think it's figuring out what you really want, because for me, my primary priority is I want to build business here. So me sitting on a panel, like, a patient may see that and think, oh, it's a bit of authority, I'll trust her. But they have to have seen that in the first place. So I need that visibility. So I need people talking about me. I need people to know. And then when they look me up, they need reviews. So I think it's prioritizing and working out, does it matter if you've been in a newspaper if you've got no patients booked in? Like chicken or egg, I guess. People might see that and then book, and it does build authority, but I definitely think you have to be careful how much time and effort you put into stuff that's not going to fuel the fire that's your priority.
I think one of the biggest things, I spoke to a business coach and they said, and on this kind of topic, if you're spending 7 hours a week, break down how much your hours are worth. Say, for example, your hours are £40 an hour. You've spent that. If you view that as a marketing budget, someone said, here's this pot, where would you put it? Would you put it into this, or would you put it to something else? You need to view yourself as a commodity rather than just that it's just time. It's not just time. Time is real precious, and it's really expensive.
Definitely. Sometimes you have to delegate. Like I delegate. I've got an incredible cleaner, like Marta, big love, honestly, and she's a friend as well. Like she's just amazing. But I'll often ask, oh, can you do a bit of extra, like with the ironing, or can you help me out here or there? That sounds like the Dr Seuss green eggs and ham. My kids are obsessed with it. I do not like them here nor there. We're listening to it every day in the car and it's so boring. Literally, I do not like green eggs and ham. Time is money. And for me, the whole evening, it takes me forever to iron. I'm so slow.
I just don't do it.
But I've got 2 toddlers and the ironing, the loads of washing is just constant. And things end up being like in the tumble dry for 2 days and crumpled. And so to me, I could spend a whole night working on business, or I could spend a whole night ironing. And actually, it's not like I can't bother to do ironing. I never stop. I don't get that downtime. Where's my time best spent? Not ironing, because then the business is going to just stay. So you kind of have to figure out where to delegate, where to invest, what's going to free up time, what's going to help you. I've just invested in PR like a month ago, started, because I'm at a point where I'd plateaued in what I could do myself. There's only so far. If I sit and email 75 companies, I've got to find them, email them, chase them. Whereas if she's got those contacts and goes straight in at the top and say, I've got a client who's great, let's have her, I've seen results so much quicker. But if you've just started your business, even if a PR person pitches you, oh, this person's done 1 set of false nails in their life. They're not going to make that they're not going to be any more effective than you. So if you've got time, then you can be doing some of that and you can be building that. So I just think it's looking at where you are in your journey and what investments are going to give you. And also, you'll make mistakes, you'll waste money. Like I've spent hundreds of pounds on like social media ads and marketing. I paid somebody to do some ads that were just terrible. And it was like, I didn't know any better.
I don't think I know a single business owner who hasn't been scammed.
Or at least like, even if it wasn't a scam of like a trick.
No, but it's like you've lost something somewhere.
Well, I invested to do up one room and then a year later moved down here. And it was like, I bought loads of cabinetry that didn't fit the room configuration here. When I moved in here, we had to take the whole ceiling down and redo it all. Like there was one day we came in and I thought we were plastering that day. And the guys were like, no, because of what we've had, it was nobody's fault at any point, but there were unexpected hurdles. And what we had to do to get the wiring to work, it meant lots of the ceiling had to be taken down. I thought it was just patching it up, and they were like, no, it needs a whole new ceiling, $8,000 on the day. And it was like, if we don't do that, we can't progress. And I'd budgeted like 30 for the whole renovation, thinking, and all of a sudden it's 8. And then we obviously have to plaster the ceiling as well then when it's done. So it was like, but if I said no, I can't have a clinic with no ceiling, like cables hanging down. So it was like overnight, £8,000. Yeah, which I just hadn't known could even be a thing. You know, you don't know till you get started.
I think, like, although I would always say, like, just start somewhere, my biggest thing is you have no idea how expensive it will be.
Everything costs so much more than you think.
Even as a service, I have relatively low overheads, but stuff still costs me money all the time.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just save as much as you can. Whatever you think you need to save more.
Yeah, definitely. And I just think, like you said, go for it. But I would start small. And I think you don't need as much as you think to be successful. Like, you don't need a professional. I've spent hundreds in like videographers and stuff. Again, to be fair, I got scammed there. We didn't have anything in writing. Spent like £700 or something. No, it's 500 for a full day of filming and 2 reels.
Okay.
And which was fair. And then they were like, okay, so per extra reel it's £450. And I was like, how on earth does that fit into the budget when it's a full day of filming plus 2 was 500? But I hadn't got anything in writing. It's my fault. Then they charged me 300 to send me the raw footage. And I'm not saying that maybe it shouldn't be 450 a reel, but none of it was in writing. So because I just knew it was 550 or 530 for a day plus 2 reels, I'd obviously done the numbers in my head and thought, £50 a reel maybe.
Yeah.
So then all of a sudden they'd got all this footage they'd captured,
and you couldn't really do
like hostage, and I had to spend, it was at like 300 just to send me the link to the footage. Ooh. And nothing was in writing, so I'd spent £730 for some really average content, and you just think, you live and learn.
You do. I think your phone can do a lot these days. I'm not saying it replaces videographers; they are absolutely worth the money. But your phone, especially setting up, it can do enough. Yeah, the photographer I've just used was incredible because she gave me direction as well, and the lighting, and so that was a whole different ball game. But for your day-to-day stuff, you can do it yourself. And I think, especially in the early days, people don't expect professionally created content to book in with somebody or to use their service. There's so many other ways you can show your experience and your skill without having to waste like nearly £1,000. Anyway, the end. Not quite 1,000 now. So I'd love to, I feel like we've just talked for hours, but I'd love to finish up on, I ask everyone the same 2 questions. Okay. You've not been prepared for these. One of them's easier than the other. So we'll go, do you want to go easy or hard first? Hard. Hard first. Most entrepreneurs go hard first. I feel like that says everything. Your hard question. What is the one thing, if you're being 100% transparent and honest between you, me, there's no cameras, no nothing, that you wish you had known or that you thought you should know when you first started? For example, a couple of mine have been, I didn't know what VAT was. I know what it is, but I don't really know who ends up paying it because no one really pays it. It's a whole thing. I didn't know how TikTok worked. I have now since learned all of these things. Yeah, I was going to say, I didn't know any of that at the start. I would say financially, standing your management accounts and your numbers, especially in like a service-based industry where you have stock. Because you can look at, I've made that much this month. Because if I do a stock order, so like, I don't know if it's going to be in the final cut, obviously, but I had a stock order arrive. Yeah. And that's a big box of filler. So that's got like... I wouldn't say that's a big box. So that's got about 100 syringes in there. Oh, wow. Yeah. So if you imagine you've got all those syringes of filler, I'm not going to use all of those in this month. Okay. Necessarily. We've got how long left? A few more days. Yeah. So I'm not going to finish those in March. So when I look at my turnover for March and my expenses, I'll have spent thousands on that box, but I've not used all that product. So when I look at my numbers, I can see how much I've taken in March, but I've got stock left over. Yeah. So when I look at my expenses, that will be on an invoice for March's expenses. Yes. But I've not used all that stock. So you need to really understand your finances to actually work out how much money you're making. Yeah. So understanding like how much I need. So I know my fixed costs of this business, which is my rent, my insurance, professional registrations, CapCut to edit my videos, Instagram verified. So all these things are my fixed costs. And no matter how many patients I see, they don't change. You know, my internet's not more expensive because I've got more patients, but my stock does change. So understanding your fixed expenses, what's the word? Not fixed costs. Flexi costs. What's the actual word? It's completely escaped my head. Like variable costs, I guess. And really understanding your numbers so you know how much do I need to actually be viable. And then understanding things like you said about your tax. So really that financial kind of intelligence and awareness is something I just wish I'd had at the start, but you can't, you're not born with that. I've got no formal business training. You just learn as you go. But I think that that's so important because it allows you to make decisions strategically, because I could look in the business bank account and see however many like
however much in there and think, oh, brilliant, I'm going to buy a laser.
Yeah.
But actually, I'm going to buy, so there could be enough money to buy a Birkin in there. But then you think, okay, PR needs to be paid.
Yeah.
That box needs to be paid. You might have got 30 days on account to pay for stock when you've been a good customer. So you'll think, right, I've got 30 days to pay that. So that's got to go out of that account. I've got to pay my wage out of that account. There's got to be corporation tax money left over. So it's if you have that financial intelligence, or there's a different word for it as well, financial
awareness?
No, like
literate.
Yes, if you're financially literate, thank you, financial literacy, then you're able to, I think, budget and plan better. Because if you're scared because you don't think you've got any money there, you might be doing better than you think. You're not going to be making investments into your business to grow. But equally, it's really easy to overspend, which I think a lot of people do. Because you don't have to pay on account in a corporation, like business, oh my goodness, in a limited company, you don't pay on account, but personally you do. So it's a little bit easier to have like real-time numbers in your business account. But I just think if you understand it, then it's going to help you make better decisions within your business.
That's a good one. And an easy one. I obviously already know the answer because I picked you up one on the way here. What is your go-to Starbucks order?
So it's actually not that.
Is it not?
No, but I didn't want to go with that in case you were going to like Costa or something lowly. But it's coconut matcha. It's coconut matcha, and that's what I'd make at home as well. And not because I don't have dairy, I just prefer it. I just really like coconut matcha. No syrups, no sweeteners, just coconut milk and matcha. But this morning I did ask for a normal cappuccino, which is like that's my go-to if someone else is getting a coffee and they're like, they could be going to like Costa Express in the petrol station. Well, I do it to me. But you never know. So you don't want to be too bougie and then you'd be like, oh my God, I need to go and find her a coconut matcha. Exactly. So I went for a cappuccino, but coconut matcha.
Do you know, we recently moved to the area. Dunkin' Donuts around the corner from us. I've never been to a Dunkin' Donuts.
Oh yeah, and it works up near like Rhodesia.
So I'd never been to one before. They do amazing matchas.
Do they?
I was equally surprised.
Like, hold my cup. They have started doing matcha lattes in my kids' swimming lessons.
No.
For real. There's an ice cream parlour thing, and then they've started doing matcha lattes just randomly.
Which place do you take your kids
to? I know, it's so fancy.
You are.
I know, because I've got my big fancy business.
It's big, a big fancy business.
I know. I think I actually pay more for their swimming lessons than I pay myself in wages. But, that's being a mum. What a note to end on.
Yeah. And on that note, so you could have your coffee back. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Just feel like there's so much information there, and I love the honesty. I think that is one of the biggest things that's missing, and that is at the core of what we do at Alone, is bridging that gap, like you say, between the startups and the success, millionaires, whatever you are at that point. We're all in the middle of that. I'd love to be a millionaire, but if I'm never there, then that's okay. I just feel like there's so much actionable stuff in there. So thank you. It has been amazing to have you on.
Well, thank you very much.
And I'm sure you'll be on again. We'll see you again.
Me.
Thank you.